Hi everybody, Leslie from Discovery Fabrics, and today I'm going to talk about what makes a fabric waterproof and what constitutes breathability in fabrics. So I've got a selection of fabrics here that we carry at Discovery Fabrics, ranging from Powershield to Powershield Pro to Neoshell, and I even have one Gore-Tex fabric here that we're going to talk about and what the differences are between them. So first of all, what is waterproof? What constitutes waterproof standard in fabrics? So really, for something to be completely waterproof, it would not breathe at all. So for example, if you were to wear rubber, you would be completely waterproof, but you would sweat so much that you would be completely soaked inside anyway with any activity. So there's an industry standard that is done, a test, that shows what degree of waterproofness a fabric is. And it can range from 0 to 5,000, and that's in millimeters. So what they do is they take like a glass test tube and they put in millimeters water, stacks up till it's 5,000, for example, or 10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000 millimeters. And just so you get an idea of what 20,000 millimeters in a 1-inch test tube is, it's about 63 feet high. So a high degree of pressure on that fabric. So in the industry, if you were to have a fabric that's rated between 0 and 5,000 millimeters, it would not really be giving you any protection at all. It might give you a little tiny bit in a light rain. Then from 5,000 to 10,000 millimeters, it's going to give you a little bit of protection in rain, but not in heavy rain. From 10 to 15, it's going to give you pretty good protection, except in extreme circumstances or really heavy rain. And then from 15 to 20, you can be in an absolute downpour. And the closer you get to 20,000, you're going to stay absolutely dry. But in the best fabrics with breathability that are also considered to be waterproof, there's always that trade-off, because what makes a fabric waterproof or water repellent is based on whatever technology has been used in that fabric. For example, some fabrics simply have a water repellent finish. It's called DWR, which stands for durable water repellent. And some of those finishes are excellent, and you can still have great breathability and the water will run off or bead off and you'll stay pretty dry. So the other ways that you can get that waterproofness is through a membrane that's inside the fabric. And the membrane is designed generally so that water droplets cannot come through the size of the pores of the membrane, but sweat vapor, which is much smaller than a water droplet, can escape. So the more breathability generally that you have, and I'll just explain breathability a little bit. The more breathability that you have, sometimes that's a trade-off for the waterproofness that you have, because you're going to have to increase the size of those pores for that vapor to get out. So how they test breathability, or really the term should be air permeability, because fabric doesn't have lungs, is they would take a hose that's got high pressure air and put it underneath the fabric. Then they have a glass of water on top of it, and the air that's able to get through the fabric would create bubbles in that glass of water, and they measure the bubbles and they can tell how much air is getting into that. And if you look back to the old Gore-Texes that were created, which were the first basically waterproof fabrics, they had no breathability. It was awful. So you were sweating terribly when you used those. But we have much better fabrics now. So now that you understand what breathability is and what water repellency is, let's talk about a couple of the fabrics that we carry. So first of all, I'm going to talk about Powershield. Powershield is a family of fabrics by Polartec, and there's many styles of Powershield. This whole wall that we have is all Powershield fabrics. It can have anything on the lining, from a wicking power dry to a micro fleece to a heavy fleece to a high loft that's going to trap air against your body for warmth. The outside fabric, which is called the face of the fabric, is generally treated with a really high quality DWR, water repellency. And Powershield does not have a membrane. It's actually just laminated, but the water repellency comes from the DWR. Next to that, I have a Gore-Tex fabric, and you can't even tell this when you look at it compared to a Powershield. They can look identical. They have many of the same properties. This particular Gore-Tex is a soft shell that's just laminated. It doesn't have a membrane, but it's a really good quality one. Personally, we prefer the Powershield, the Polartec family of fabrics, just for their consistency and because we, in our own use of them, have found them superior to Gore-Tex. But what I want to explain to you is you can't really tell by looking at a fabric what is inside of it. You have to rely upon knowing the source, the membrane, the name of the fabric, that kind of thing. For example, we're going to go now from Powershield in the Polartec family to Powershield Pro. Now, Powershield Pro does have a membrane in it, and you can't see that membrane. It's sandwiched in between the outer face and the inner lining. But the Powershield Pro has the most air-permeable membrane that we've seen yet. So Powershield Pro is also very, very water repellent, but it doesn't quite meet that 20,000 mm standard that NeoShell has. NeoShell is advertised as waterproof because it meets or exceeds that 20,000 mm standard consistently. Having said that, when I look at the tech sheets for Powershield Pro, often they tested at pretty close to 20,000. So you really can pick either NeoShell or Powershield Pro if you're looking for superior water repellency or waterproofness and really, really high breathability. So these two fabrics are both Powershield Pro, and see how different they are. This one here has a much more heavy gridded back. They're different weights, they're different stretches. So just because you know the word or the family of Powershield Pro doesn't mean that that's one fabric. It's many, many fabrics. And our styles are changing all the time here at Discovery Fabrics. This is an example here of both a NeoShell and a Powershield Pro. And the reason I'm showing you this one, these are considered to be flyweight. You're only looking at the face of the fabric and the membrane. This white is actually the membrane. And the only way you can tell which one of these is NeoShell or Powershield Pro is to know the style number, because it's really hard to tell by looking at them. And the reason that the membrane is exposed on these fabrics is they were intended to be lined. And they were made by Polartec to be lined with Alpha Direct, which we've talked a lot about lately, which is an insulating liner that can be used to line these fabrics, or actually can be used on its own. We've made garments with it all by itself as a mid layer. But it's an active insulation. So if you're very, very active and you need water repellency and breathability, but you need a little warmth, then you might want to choose this and line it with Alpha Direct. You could also use Alpha Direct to line any of the fabrics if you wanted to beef them up. So that's a 2-layer. Now here we have, and again, you cannot tell by looking at the fabrics themselves. This is actually a Powershield Pro. It's a brand new one we've got in this mermaid color. And this is a NeoShell. They look the same on the back, they look the same on the front, but NeoShell meets that standard of 20,000 mm. Powershield Pro does not consistently, but it's still considered to be as close to waterproof as you can get in the industry. And it has more breathability. The reason it has more breathability is because it's got a little bit bigger pores for that reason. And therefore, that's the trade-off that you have. More breathability always means less waterproofness. But of these two fabrics, literally, you could just pick the color you like, because you are not going to notice the difference unless you're some kind of an Olympic athlete going up Mount Everest. They're both just fantastic. They're both going to keep you absolutely dry. You can seal the seams if you want to. We don't even bother here at Discovery Trekking. We make a lot of jackets for customers that come into the store. We do custom jackets only for local people, but you can't tell the difference. I mean, I've got jackets made out of all of these, and I can go out in the pouring rain and I never get wet. So I just wanted to explain that to you so you have a little bit better idea of what you can choose to make your own garments, your own outerwear. And really it boils down to pick a color, pick one that has the right stretch, and then beef it up with whatever, by either choosing a weight that's a little more or by adding an insulating liner. And that's it for now. Thanks.